Hey, good morning. This is EJ LeBlanc, doing the 22 push-up challenge. Um, as a lot of you are aware, uh, I'm trying to help spread awareness for the 22 veterans a day that are committing suicide. And then there's, a lot of people in America and the world right now that are committing suicide. And the more that I learn about it, the more I read about it, the more uh, it's almost like a pandemic. I mean, it's pretty bad. Like uh, and so here's this. It's even more massive a problem than I could have imagined. Um, and so um, in many areas of the world, it's becoming one of, if not the leading cause of death among people in age groups that really should be just fine. They should be living for years and years longer. Um, so, in the midst of this time in particular, I'm just wanting to share with you, uh, you know, different things that I've learned because I see a lot of my brothers and sisters doing the push-up challenge and doing the 22 push-ups, and that's cool. Spread awareness, right? But if we don't talk about the uh, the root causes, and we don't talk about how to be more resilient as a whole, and how as a culture how we could help each other through the very difficult times, um, there's a problem, right? And if we don't talk about it, it only makes it worse. And if we don't even be willing to learn about it, then there's some, it only makes things worse. So um, I was looking at, yesterday I mentioned my full focus planner, so I get these once a quarter. And this is obviously the third quarter of 2020. What a weird year this has been, huh? And at the beginning, at the opening section of the full focus journal, I write something akin to the following. I write, on this side, the things I'm trying to focus on as a whole, for that quarter, and the services I provide for my business, and how the things I want to get better in. Um, Try to encapsulate what I'm trying to strive for. This quarter in particular, it's joy and learning and loving and helping people. Um, and I know, this is my business slogan. My art is the science of bringing out your best. And I try to apply science to whatever it is that I'm doing, specifically because, uh, to use science and evidence-based methods, I'm able to take that evidence and say, okay, well, what is the likelihood that this outcome is going to be achieved by using this particular method? And the odds go up exponentially just by the fact that a lot of people have done it before and they have data to support it. And so you look at the data and it tells you, oh, okay, well, hey, these are the most likely outcomes. Oh, okay, well, obviously we should probably try to use those things, um, you know, uh, to keep us moving forward. So, um, the services that I provide for my business are just the things that over time that I found that I'm pretty good at. I'm really good at human performance technology, which is essentially just learning to listen, learning to hear people's problems, and then using specific methods of analysis and specific interventions identified by that analysis, like I was just talking about, to provide an outcome or a desired outcome that would aid the business or the organization or whatever it is. Uh, and the great thing about human performance technology is it's the identification and meeting of performance based needs. So whatever someone needs to do in order to be better at their job or their life, even, or whatever it is. You use human performance technology and you help people be better at the societal, at the organizational, at the work center, and at the individual level. Um, Instructional systems design is it's all about identifying and meeting learning needs. It's all about identifying and meeting uh, you know does this person need to know something? Do they need to develop a skill, or do they need to acquire or ascertain whether or not they have a certain ability? uh, and so the figuring out of the assessment of the learning, to figure out whether or not they how to best teach that, and how to best fight the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve, uh, and to promote to help people learn stuff. It's wonderful. And how do you teach a whole bunch of people and map that out uh, in a way that's safe for them and safe for the organization and safe for everybody else, and still in alignment with what the business is trying to achieve? That's instructional system design, and I love it. I love it very much. And just like I love human performance technology. As part of that, I spend a great deal of time making e-learning courses, uh, making all sorts of multimedia-based performance and learning interventions. So multimedia design and development. That's you know, and then the last two services are things that I'm currently like working on, because there's implications of this new concept called DevOps and whatnot uh, that I believe will change the way anyone that works in the communications industry, and that's a broad term there. Anyone that's in the learning industry, also an equally broad term. Training professionals, learning professionals. There's implications of this new thing called DevOps. And so, at any rate, yeah, probably rambling. 7 minutes. Oh my gosh! Come on, EJ, get to the point. My point in sharing this with you is that at the beginning of every quarter, I map these things out and I make sure that everything I do for the rest of that quarter is lined up with this in some way, and it helps, because it's like stacking pennies. It's just a penny, right? Just this one thing I read. It's just this one article I read, but you add them up over time, it becomes this broad body of knowledge, and all of a sudden I'm an expert. All of a sudden people hire me to you know for my expertise. Uh, it's good stuff. Uh, so on this side, I wrote my life purpose, right? My mission statement, the thing that I want to achieve with my life, right? If you aim for nothing, you'll hit the mark every time, right? Like you'll get nothing every time. Um, so I want to, I don't know if I'm not guaranteed tomorrow. I'm not guaranteed the rest of the day. But as much as I'm able, I want to make my life have meaning. I'm alive, so I'm going to do something with my life, and I'm going to try to do the very best I can to help people. So, given those skills that I have, what is my life purpose? What is the thing that I want to achieve? So, I work to identify and meet needs using evidence-based methods to improve human performance. I strive to be a compassionate, charitable, and empathetic scientist practitioner who helps people be and feel safe, love, belong, and connect, live meaningfully, experience autonomy. That's a fancy word for freedom. Autonomy, freedom of choice, freedom of, enjoy lifelong play and learning. And then, of course, my art is the science of helping people be their best. And then, it sums it up. It's not only a cool slogan or whatever, but it sums up everything I just described. So help people be and feel safe. You can't learn stuff if you're not safe. If you don't feel safe, you can't learn stuff. If you're not, the primary way that effective or heart level knowledge is shared is not through an e-learning course, it's through relationships. So how do I help people love? How do I help people feel that they belong? And how do I help people connect to even to the point where they're able to feel love and belonging? How do I teach people to live meaningfully? So as a recovering English teacher, living meaningfully, um, uh, literature, to be literate means to make meaning out of something. So if I am, um, if I'm reading a book, it's because I'm able to take the words in that book and decipher them. I can't read Russian. I am not literate in Russian. I'm not literate in pretty much every language but English. I know some uh, um, cognates, I could recognize words that are very similar in the languages, but my skills at speaking any other language but English are rudimentary at best. I am very illiterate whenever it comes to using those or speaking or having any type of experience really with these other languages. The same thing, I can't make meaning out of these other languages. The same way that a lot of people can't make meaning out of a computer, like they don't know what to do with it. And computer literacy is more and more and more important. So whenever I say live meaningfully, it's specifically to hear, to make meaning, to be literate, and express themselves and through whatever the medium is that they're attempting to do. And then experience autonomy, have the freedom of choice. And so even in the workplaces or the places that you want to have, that there are the workplaces that I envision one day to help foster. I want people to feel free. I want people to feel like they have a choice, that they don't have to be there, but they want to be there. So therefore, by golly, they're gonna be able to give their best, and get out of their way, right? Let people get out of their way. Don't. So this is very much in alignment. I'm at 12 minutes. Oh my gosh, very much in alignment with Peter Senge's learning organization. And if in order for people to truly be a learning organization, they have to be free. They have to be free to say no. They have to be free to say, you know what, I disagree. I think that's a stupid idea. Well, why? Okay, well, tell me. What? And then what happens is whenever they share their idea and I share my idea, and we both share what we're really trying to communicate here, most of the time we realize we're trying to achieve the same thing. But part of their idea and part of my idea create this wholly new thing that neither one of us could have ever thought of on our own. And you call that, or Stephen Covey calls that, the third alternative. And that's why you're able to have learning and play, and play is, by the way, one of the highest forms of learning. So anyway, and that's why this thing right here, speaking of Stephen Covey, I've got this thing that I got called the heart core model, and it's how I map out complex systems. And long story short, I made a heart core system diagram of Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And so, what is the first habit? Well, it's be proactive, and that is the one. Can you see that? Let's see if I could focus in on that. Yeah. So forgive me for rambling. I just woke up. I'm not used to doing these things in the morning, and I didn't even make an outline for this or anything. I just, hey, I want to talk about this thing that I do as part of it. Thanks for your patience. I hope you're still here. The speaking of data, by the way, the thus far in my YouTube career, I got an average attention span of about 30 seconds. So 15 minutes into this, I very much doubt I'm probably just talking to myself right now. So lots of things to learn to get better at. So the first one is to be proactive, and that is where you choose what you know what you want to happen. The second habit is the end in mind. Begin with the end in mind. The third thing is first things first. You got to prioritize. The fourth habit is think win-win. And so whenever I am being proactive in a given situation, my outcome for that goal or objective that I'm trying to achieve needs to be something that is good, not just for me, but for the other people that are in my lives. And then the fifth habit is seek first to understand. So whenever I'm trying to listen or learn or communicate in any way, I seek first to understand. Habit number 6 is synergize. Habit number 7 is sharpen the saw. And that's like, so synergize is essentially about building relationships, and sharpening the saw is all about resting, right? Taking the time to rest, taking the time to heal, taking the time to, really keep yourself up. And there's this awesome story about how, that Stephen Covey gives about trying to beat down a tree, and this guy's like hacking away at this tree, and this guy's like, "Hey man, your axe is dull. You're working 5-6 times harder than you need to." He's like, "Yeah, but I gotta cut down this tree," and so he keeps on working on the tree, and eventually, if he's ever able to finish it at all he has to do is sharpen the saw and take a moment, sharpen the saw. What do you know? You're back up to your full running capacity, and you're able to do far more and actually achieve what you're trying to set out for than without that. And so over here, I've got find your voice, and then help others find their voices, and that's called the eighth habit together, and I titled it 8A and 8B. And the reason it's mapped out this way is whenever I look at a system, I say, okay, well, how is information getting into that system? So I call that context, and that goes right over here, and that's seeking first to understand. So that's the filter with which my paradigm, I see the world. And so how do I interpret that information? How do I interpret that limited amount of information that I'm able to perceive? Well, I gotta prioritize. I gotta put first things first. What do I believe to be true? What are my attitudes? What do I really believe to be true? That is beginning with the end in mind. What do I really want to happen? So those things, actually, more than anything else, those attitudes, those beliefs affect my relationships with myself and my environment. And that enables me to synergize with other people of like mind, people of similar beliefs. And so, in the same way, I get those beliefs from people I have relationships with. So, are you listening? Like that? I'm talking about deep stuff here. But there you go. So, if I have relationships with other people, that's where I get like the 90% of my beliefs from. That's also where I get 90% of my like unbeliefs. If people hurt me, if people do bad things to me or whatnot, it's like it puts this practically insurmountable cliff in front of me on whether or not I'm going to hear, or even just by association, right? I'll cut off, that person reminds me of that person, or that person, that belief reminds me of that person that I met a long time ago. I'm not going to listen to anything that person has to say. So, yeah, That's why our relationships and how we treat each other is so important. Uh, no one knows, no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. No one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. So, what do you do with that? Well, you be proactive. That's the thing you do. And so, any system has an observable behavior, and the one thing that you can observe from this whole thing is is that person being proactive? What are they doing to be proactive? And then for every behavior, every observable behavior, it is done to achieve a purpose. And this is for every system universally. So every behavior, every observable behavior is done to achieve a purpose that is hoped for, and it is not guaranteed. And so that purpose is thinking win-win. And so I add these two in here because what's the observable behavior for the eighth habit? Well, it's to find your own voice. And what is the purpose of that? It's to help others find their voices. And so, with that in mind, I try to, I write this at the beginning of every quarter specifically so I can refresh myself on who do I want to be? What kind of jobs do I want to do? You know, and so from there on out, throughout the rest of the planner, whenever I'm looking at my life and the things that I'm doing, I could say, yes, I'm making this e-learning course right now. But what's the greater purpose? What is the greater objective that I'm trying to achieve? How can I help people be their best whenever I'm making this particular e-learning course? So, these things and more help you become more resilient than you ever would have thought possible. Just the mere fact that I have a purpose, someone that's got a purpose can suffer through anything and endure just about anything and keep going, just keep ticking, and you could go far farther than you would ever have thought possible just by the mere fact that I have a purpose. So ultimately, I believe, as I talked about my higher power, I believe that he has a purpose for my life. I am striving to figure that out, and it's still a day-by-day thing, but this is my clearest understanding thus far of what that purpose that is set for my life is, and I want to live in alignment to that, even in these rambling videos that we're doing here. So thanks for listening. I hope you have a great day. I ask you and challenge you to find out and map out what your purpose is based upon the things that you're good at. Start with that strengths-based leadership or strengths-based, the Clifford Strengths Finder, right? Like start with that stuff. Figure out what you're good at, and then more than likely, that's the path that you need to take in order to be your best. All right. So thanks for listening to me ramble. I hope you have a great day. You're loved, man. All right. Let's do our push-ups. Thanks for your patience. This one clearly should be edited. I'm gonna have to refine my craft. Oh boy. Thanks very much. I hope you have a great day. You are loved.